David Dorn's going to introduce Dick Boddie. I just want to tell you my first experience and my story. As Mark has pointed out, and people that we have as speakers and so on, it's about this moral argument. It's about changing minds. It's about choosing the right path and why. I was already an activist by 88, 89. I'm searching for the truth. I had a lot of activism, filed lawsuits against the state and so on. I was asked to be a speaker at the Arizona Libertarian Party convention for the 1991 convention, December I think it was, for the 92 presidential cycle, of which Dick Boddie was a speaker. He goes on about how he's the first black libertarian that well, my first libertarian convention, I have Dick Boddie there doing a great job speaking. So that's, the race thing was never an issue with me from the very beginning. That's how I perceived the Libertarian Party, as being open to race and gender and sexual preference. They lived it. And Dick Boddie was an example of it, and he did a great job, had a big influence on me, and one of the reasons why I'm libertarian now. David Dorn's going to introduce him.
Hello, everybody. I met Dick before Ernie, so I guess I get the privilege of introducing him. And Dick reminded me that I introduced him 15 years ago at a previous Freedom Summit on his 65th birthday. And so if anybody can do math, you can figure out he's over 80 years old and still here, I'm happy to say. Dick has got quite a bio. He was born in Elmira, New York on October 19th, 1938. Raised in Rochester, New York, and has lived in California on the American Riviera since 1977. A true champion of individual liberty and rights, self-government, and the free market. He attributes his success in life mainly to family. His father, grandfather, and great-grandfather were all reverends, and I think you'll get the heritage will come out when he speaks. His great-great-grandfather, Reverend Cooley E. Boddie, was the only former slave buried at Rose Hill Plantation in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I met Dick in Philadelphia in 1984. He was the road manager and fundraiser for David Bergland, who was the Libertarian Party presidential candidate back in 1984. And I was active in the Libertarian Party back then, and I actually used to vote back then. And I was pleased to meet Dick. He came to my house and stayed over, and we became friends. I reconnected. I moved to Arizona in '86, and Dick and I were both at the Seattle Libertarian Party convention in 1987. And I remember telling Dick, I said, Phoenix, I just moved from Philadelphia, where Maj is from, to Phoenix, and there were just white people here. And I remember telling Dick in 1987 that the St. Louis Cardinals football team was moving to Arizona, and they were going to double the black population. That's exactly what they did. He's called on the program I saw, they says the Black Libertarian. And, there are other black libertarians, obviously, but Dick knows what it's like to be a real minority. In 1954, he was the first Eagle Scout in Rochester, New York, and that was quite a minority. And unlike Dick, I got kicked out of the Boy Scouts. Two reasons. One, I couldn't tie knots. And the second one, I changed the motto. Remember the Boy Scout motto? And I said this in front of the troops, and they kicked me out. But Dick, this may refresh your memory. On my honor, I will do my best to find a Girl Scout with big... Never mind. I'm not going to... But Dick Boddie summarizes his message as, do all you agree to do. Do not encroach on other people or their property. Do not hurt others. Try not to do too much dumb stuff, and enjoy. In essence, the non-aggression principle, as Mark likes to say. What a bio this guy has. Let me just take a minute here. In addition to professional speaking, teaching, and training, he is a lawyer an andragogue, or teacher of adults, as an adjunct professor for many years. He has been a mediator, arbitrator, administrative hearing officer, a writer, an entrepreneur, a decathlon champion, a folk singer, a recreation leader, a commercial cook, a banker, a jazz musician, a student radical, an ombudsman, a sales representative for New York Life, Eastman Kodak Company, Wells Fargo Bank, a bank officer with Lincoln Rochester Trust Company, now at Chase Bank, almost done, an administrator with Xerox Corporation, a financial planner, a private court administrator, a radio and television program host and personality, a fundraiser, a law school director of admissions, a stand-up comedian, and remains an amateur philosopher. What that tells me is he can't hold a job. But he describes himself as an African-American individualist and secular evangelist. His charisma, personality, background, life experience, and vision all helped to establish the foundation of his mission, which is, quote, to teach and share the ideas and ideals of individual achievement and individual liberty with at least one person each and every day for the rest of my life. His exemplar and spiritual mentor is the great abolitionist, orator, and publisher of the 19th century, Frederick Douglass. And to top it off, he was the highest vote getter in the Libertarian Party history for U.S. Senate. May I present the body politic, Richard Benjamin Boddie.
Thank you, James.
All right, take care. Here's the mic.
What a pumped up crowd, I tell you. I'm going to have to do both of these venues for the reason that my 80 years is beginning to affect my lower back. So I will sit in the chair and act like it's just a Q&A type of thing too. And speaking of Q&A, I would hopefully somebody could give me a high sign at about maybe 15 minutes before my time is up, and we could go to question and answer, because I find that to be a lot more fulfilling for the person who's sitting on that side to be able to ask questions. Plus, my experience with libertarians has been it gives some of the nerds an opportunity to question a date you said or a fact you made or whatever, but that's all right. I'm willing to take that chance. This gentleman here looks like Clint Eastwood, by the way. Hey, I tell you. Let me undo this. I had another quick aside. To get off the plane today in Phoenix was the exact opposite of 2 weeks ago. I had the opportunity and the honor to be the Martin Luther King speaker at my university where I graduated from, but it's located in bad climate. It's in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. So when we came off the plane, it was 0 degrees. And having lived in Southern California for the past 40 years, my body and my lungs had not felt that cold in over 40 years, so bad that I ended up with walking pneumonia. So you got me at the tail end of a lot of antibiotics and feeling pretty good. I was just, Mike, oh my God. Woo! I didn't expect that. One of my dear friends, and I got to get some water on that. I looked in the audience and see one of my colleagues from Coast Community College who lives in Huntington Beach, and he's sitting here, and I said, this guy looks like Mike Bach. I keep talking. Sure enough, it is Mike Bach, so that sort of got to me. So we got Clint Eastwood here, and we got Mike for real over there, and I was sort of taken back by that. And Ernie says some good stuff that just blew me away too, but I'll proceed. I even have some set things to talk about over the next few minutes. But don't forget, about 10 minutes to go, Q&A. Mike Bach, you're sneaky, brother. Wow, thank you. 2 years ago, I came across a presentation. It was a double album. Back when they had LPs, because at 80 we had records, we used to have vinyls. I have music in all three media. I have cassettes, vinyl, and no 45s, yeah, but they don't count in the grand scheme of things. The other one is CD, and that's like a hat trick. And I have about maybe 20 different albums that are hat tricks, mostly jazz and all. But the thought came to me. I said, well, there was this Black History album, and on it was a incredible black speaker who's an actor too. Some of you may know Roscoe Lee Brown. He had the deep voice like this, little short dude. And he did a thing that I said, I'm going to share. I shared it in Bucknell. I'll share it with you because it sort of goes toward a feeling or an understanding of where I'm coming from on behalf of not just myself and my family, but on behalf of millions of people in this nation who still haven't been given the opportunities that I believe we need. It's a poem by Lance Jeffers called When I Know the Power of My Black Hand. I do not know the power of my hand. I do not know the power of my black hand. I sit slumped in the conviction that I am powerless. Tolerant ceilings that make me bend, my godly mind stoops. My ambition is crippled. I do not know the power of my hand. I see the power over my life and death in another man's hands, and sometimes I shake my woolly head and wonder, Lord, have mercy. What would it be like to be free? But when I know the mighty power of my black hand, I will snatch my freedom from the tyrant's mouth. Know the first taste of freedom on my eager tongue. Sing the miracle of freedom with all the force of my lungs. Christen my black nation with exuberant creation. Stand independent in the hall of nations. Root submission and dependence from the soil of my soul, and pitch the monument of slavery from my back when I know the mighty power of my hand. That's why when my man spoke about the guns, I got excited. I saw him on video. I said, boy, he's clear. He's got it. Philly. Spent many times, many days in Philly, having gone to college in Lewisburg. I want to thank Mark, Mike, Mash for the speech, Dave Dorn, for allowing me this opportunity to sit, stand, share, talk to you this evening. Topic, as I responded to Mike, he said, what's the topic? I said, no respect. Came right up like that. Because, you know, he's one of my favorite. I tell you, no respect at all. When I was a kid, my family moved a lot. I found them every time. My wife and I were happy for 20 years, and then we met. A chick called me the other day. She said, come on over. There's nobody home. I went over there. Nobody home. No respect at all. But the topic came to my brain based upon being a libertarian, being a black man, and being a member of the Yang, Y-A-N-G, and I'll explain that in a minute. You've heard the Yin and the Yang. I'm in the Yang group all the time. But I found all the people I esteem and love and get real information from are on the Yang side. There's always a yin and yang. Quick example, Freud. Young, yeah. You ever notice that? I was never a Malcolm, I mean, never a Martin Luther King guy. Even though I went back to give him honor a couple weeks ago, I was a Malcolm guy. Edison, he was getting too much play. I was a Tesla guy. There's a whole bunch of these Yanks, so we'll be touching on that too. Go over here to sit down. He said, don't go past the end of the thing over there. So we're not going to go past the end of the thing. We'll come here. We got a lot of voices too, as you'll see. Grew up with a lot of Italian guys. Hey, Dick, come over here. How you doing? Mingy. Hey, you talking to me? Who you talking to? Hey. I dug the words, I think Mark or somebody, I'm not sure who wrote it. The words for the Freedom Summit, it said, where great minds of liberty come together. The brightest minds in the freedom movement. Boy, did I feel honored. Really, honest to goodness. And then Mike said to me, we want you to do the keynote. I said, oh, to myself, I said, that's going to have to be real formal and really direct and real stodgy. I said, no, I think I can be myself. So throughout the next few minutes, you'll get a lot of the straightforward stuff, but you'll also get a lot of me showing up and giving you some opportunity to ask questions and say, how come you did that impression? No. But as was mentioned, I did do 2002, I think it was the third Freedom Summit, and it was my birthday, and they brought a birthday cake out for me and all. I was really stoked. I thought that was a great idea. I was the only black person there at that time, too. It's a tendency. I go places, and Black Libertarian is a unique commodity. Since those days, though, there is a growth. They're at least no longer a dying species. There are about 500 of us, I suspect, and growing. Back in the old days, there were only 3 of them, and 2 of the 3 really weren't. And one of the things I used to share with people, I said, Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams, you've heard of those if you're in the movement, and I have made a pact never to get on the same plane at the same time. Because if the plane crashed, we'd lose the entire Black Libertarian movement in one shot. But it's bigger now. One of my fun opening lines, if you saw the movie The Jerk, you can appreciate this. I was born an affluent Caucasian lad. I did that for a Mensa convention. They just fell out. Okay, here you go. Steve Martin opened the movie and said, I was born a poor black boy. So I just did a switch reversal on that. But as I speak, I know, as they speak of privilege, many of my lefty friends talk of privilege, a white male and all that stuff. I said, no. I was privileged too. I ain't lying. I know I was privileged. Mark alluded to something where we were saying on both sides, the time and who you were born to. I said, man, I was born privileged. In fact, when I was young, we used to stand around on the corner singing doo-wop. And the cops would come by and say, all right, get the hell out of here. We're going to come back in the paddy wagon and take it downtown. And they come back, we're scattering like flies. I mean, like rats running in several directions. And the cops would get me and say, all right, I figure I can go to jail with my friends. They said, okay, we're taking you home now. So I was the guy they'd take home all the time. I felt bad, I can't even go to jail with the brothers. But it's been a privileged life, and I now look back and I appreciate it quite a bit. My grandfather, who Dave mentioned, Jacob Benjamin Boddie, was a minister. Grandpa had 20 kids, all of whom lived long enough, went to college. 2 wives. First wife had 3. 2 died in infancy through the influenza issues back in the early 1900s, and 1 survived. No, 2 survived of the 3. And then my father's mom had 17 kids. 2 passed away at birth. 15 or so, 13 lived to adulthood. So about 15 lived to adulthood, all went to college. My grandmother Mary Gertrude Smith Boddie. If you ever go to the campus of East Stroudsburg Normal School, which is now East Stroudsburg University in Pennsylvania, the flagpole at the entrance has a plaque below it dedicated to my grandmother, the first black graduate of East Stroudsburg Normal School, 1904. So you can't deny I come from privilege. I have an uncle of the 20 kids. He was born Daniel Webster. Do you imagine Daniel Webster Boddie? Do you imagine what he became? Cornell Law School, practiced law for almost 50 years. So they knew he was going to be a lawyer to start with. When I decided to go to law school, all of the eyes turned on me and said, "Oh, we're not sure about that, because your morals would be just torn apart." You know. But I ended up not being as bad as they suspected. Here's an aside I love to share because I forget to do it sometimes. You've heard of the United Negro College Fund? It started in my house. My father and two black college presidents, one was from Howard University, which is the largest black institution, university, Mordecai Johnson, and Morehouse College, which is still an all-male college in Atlanta, President Benjamin E. Mays, and my dad, the three of them got together, put together the prototype, which became United Negro College Fund, in my dad's office, which was the church study of Mount Olivet Baptist Church, because the church had not grown big enough to have the office over in the church side. By the time Dad left, it had all of that stuff. And ironically, my dad went on to become a black college president also, which we never dreamed of. So, privilege, yeah. Somebody said, what do you put on the line on an application when they ask your religion? I love this one. It's about 20 words. Judeo Christian, epicurean, existentialist, Vedic, Zen, agnostic. And it's continued on when it's not on the religious question, anarcho-capitalist, voluntaryist, libertarian, ideologue. And I don't use just the non-aggression principle. I use the two basics of contract and criminal law. Do all you agree to do, and do not encroach on other people's property. Those are the two. Now, who makes the rules and how the rules are made? That's going to always be a problem. I like honest, moral rule makers, and I like very few of them. And I like them to be small in number. But Mark got me thinking today. The nice thing about being 80 years old is you're in the fourth quarter, so this doesn't really matter too much anymore because the game is almost over. I just hope I've done enough to make it worthwhile for my kids and others who have come in touch. I had a tremendous 80th birthday celebration on October 19th. We saw the sunset alone off the Huntington Beach Pier was worth the price of admission. We had about 100 or so people and at the waterfront Hilton, and we had some testimonials were made which really gave me a different perspective on who I was. You never know who people who love you, you never know what they really think about you because they don't tell you that. In 1978, one of my dear friends, Marshall Fritz, who was the person that brought me into this movement, Marshall had pancreatic cancer, and they had an event for him up in Hollywood that we went to. There was a big crowd, great situation, except the fact that we knew Marshall would probably not be around a year later. And I was one of the speakers, and it was like a roast. And when I'm up there talking about Marshall, I said something, and this booming voice, ho, 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 came up as it would, because he's sitting right there. And right in the middle of my roast, or my tribute, I said, oh my gosh, he's here. He's here. We're talking about him and positives from love, and he's still here. So I thought at that point, one day I'd love to have one of those and be there. So when my 80th came, I worked hard, pissed my wife off, spent too much money, but we had a tribute where I was able to listen to about a dozen friends or loved ones or relatives say things about me that I did not even know. That's scary. when you have a student say, I have my PhD because of that man, or I have my oldest grandson who was up in a college I never heard of before Thanksgiving, nor did he, called Southeastern Oregon Community College in Coos Bay, Oregon. He's a catcher, baseball, honor student, but he was at Palomar College, and he redshirted his first year because a catcher, there ain't going to be too many, and he wants to be on a Division I university team so he can go to Omaha for the World Series because he's a smart guy and he projects. So his second year comes, and they bring in 3 new catchers also. So Jordan says, Opa, I'm done. I'm out of here. I know where I'm going. He's talking about driving to San Jacinto College from Escondido. I said, no, you can't do that. So all of a sudden, this other one shows up. He does the MC thing for me. Jordan's saying stuff about me. I'm saying, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really, wow. So I'm honored, just back to circle back, I'm honored to be here and to be able to share with you some of the things that I find are important, not just to me in the liberty movement, but should be important to anybody involved in the liberty movement. And my wife said, when she was first going to come, but we got to go to a jazz function tomorrow, she says, are they just going to be libertarians there? I said, yeah. She says, I'm not sure I want to go. Because this is my second wife. My first wife of girlfriend and wife of 50 years, she got used to it. She passed away in 2009, and I remarried a friend of hers who was a widow. Was a friend of our families, But both of them said, this libertarian thing, I'm tired of that. But I can't get it out of my system because I somehow believe these things that I've been talking about for the past 36 years. I believe those who do more should get more, and those who do less should get less. I believe people should be left alone unless they ask for help. I believe that good people shouldn't be forced to have to pay money for things they don't agree with. I believe that people should not have to be put into teams on left and rights. Republican or Democrat, name your poison. Both parties raise our taxes. Both parties steal our freedoms. Both parties are out of touch with you and me. That was the Dick Boddie ad for U.S. Senate back in 1992. So I could give you the whole thing on that. But it's true. And so, as was said before, we're the only ones in the middle. And what's causing this weird stuff that's going on, I happen to believe it's the handheld device. Social media has created this craziness we have today. On the good side, though, a libertarian was elected in Riverside County with the biggest population. Hewitt is his name. I forget his first name. Some of you may have seen the article in the LA Times. Jeff Hewitt. And he's an old school libertarian. He hasn't changed anything. He hasn't hedged. He hasn't acted like a Republican. He's said the same thing since John Hosper's taught it to him at USC. I say, yes. And his population that he represents is something like 500,000 people. We've never had an election, whether it's Andre Maru was elected in Alaska. I think he had about 18 people in his district. So we have some things happening now because a lot of people are waking up to the fact if they want to still play politics. I don't. I'm like Dave Dorn. I haven't voted since Arnold became governor in New York. Arnold. I said, no, I'm done. But I find that's a whole different discussion. But I find my vote is not going to be the difference in any election. And I'm just going to be feeling good if I think that, I voted. And I always voted for the person who lost anyway. That's how I knew. It's like I know when I'm on the right track because the wind is facing me. I'm sailing into the headwinds. On occasion in my life, in my 80 years, I all of a sudden felt the wind in my back and said, hold on, something's wrong. So we got to sort of reevaluate my position here if I'm going along with the flow. You know you're getting old when everything hurts and what don't hurt don't work. You know you're getting old when your back goes out more than you do. I tell you. A chick called me the other day. She said, come on over, there's nobody home. I went over there, nobody home. No respect at all. Sandra Day O'Connor, School of Law. I'm reminded of a movie you all have to see. Right now it's called On the Basis of Sex. It's about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I didn't think I'd like it. My wife said, you got to come. You like these lawyer movies and all, so you got to come. Boy, when it was over, I was really impressed. So if you haven't seen that one, check it out. I love lawyer movies. I just can't help myself. Verdict with Paul Newman. Loved it. Jimmy Stewart in one of the black and white ones. Jim was a lawyer. I forget what the name of it, but Jim Stewart was. He was a lawyer. Anyway, Sandra Day O'Connor. Go see the movie with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I went to law school. Here's one that I love to do recently. I grew up in Rochester, as I said. I was a decathlete. I did a whole bunch of stuff. Went to Bucknell, then went to Syracuse Law School. I had to go 2 times because the first time I was hanging out with Felix Cavallari, who became the lead singer with the Young Rascals. We had a singing group. And because of my not attentive nature for my year in law school then, they told me to go home. Don't come back. Felix became famous. He's in the Hall of Fame, and Cleveland told me, he said, Dick, you got to come with me. We can be famous. I said, Felix, there's no way in hell a white guy singing black stuff like we're singing is ever going to make it. Well, I was wrong. Went back to Syracuse Law School. First day back, we're in a place like this, and they're having an orientation, and it's all crowded, and I hear a brother in the corner talking. He's preaching, boy. He's talking. Yeah, I got to see this brother, meaning a black guy. I get to the corner. It's a white dude with blonde hair. I said, wow. So when I got a break, I got closer. I say, hey, man, I'm Dick Boddie. He said, I'm Joe Biden. I said, how you learn to talk like that? He said, I was the main lifeguard in the Central Park pool in Wilmington, and I was the only white lifeguard there. And I was the chief guy, and I used to hire all the brothers, so I learned how to talk. So I know Ebonics. I said, oh, cool, man. So we became good friends about that point. Fast forward. He said to everybody in that law school when we were there, he said that I'm going to be the youngest United States Senator ever. And people laughed because Joe was dead last in his class. But he had figured it out. He said Delaware has more senators than congressmen. He said also his father had name recognition because he owned the largest Chevy dealership in the state of Delaware. In fact, Joe sold about 15 Corvettes to the people in the law school at Syracuse. Per capita, more people at Syracuse had Corvettes than any other school. But he also said that I think I can pull it off because I know how to play the game. I said, okay, Joe, we'll see. Well, he did, but tragically, right before he was elected, Nelia and the daughter was killed in a car wreck with the 2 sons. The amazing part there is Joe and Nelia had asked Ann and me to come over for dinner. It was my first year, it was Joe's 3rd year, because they were going to adopt a female baby black African-American girl, baby. And they wanted our input to find out what we felt about that idea. So we went to dinner, and I told him straight up, I said, Joe, black lawyer, white lawyer, baby, don't matter what color. Adopt her. And they signed, and she became pregnant again, and because she had a few miscarriages before. And the next thing you know, she's pregnant. They didn't adopt the child. And then the scenario goes as everybody knows. Joe gets elected. He's sworn in the hospital with two of his sons, young kids. And one of those sons who went to Syracuse Law School, Bo, died of brain tumor. Now, one thing I'll say about him, I don't agree politically with him at all. He spoke at Harvard for my wife's granddaughter's graduation, the day before graduation, 2017. They wouldn't even let me close. Secret Service guys kept me away. Everybody else was kissing and hugging them. But the thing I love about Joe Biden is he's authentic. He's authentic. And he's always been authentic. Yes, ma'am. Worst student in his class. Worst student in his class. He placed dead last in his class of 67 at Syracuse Law School. But if he says he will do something for you as a friend, he will do that. So I thought it was really interesting that now, if the Democrats, to politics, if the Democrats want any hope of getting rid of Trump, they have no choice but Joe. There's nobody else, of the 15 or the 20 or the other one showing up. They can't beat Trump. Trump's unbeatable because he's like Mercury. You can't pick up Mercury with your fingers. This dude is unbelievable. This guy has set a new pattern. He's not the worst president we've ever had. He's just very different. The worst president we've ever had were people who did stuff like try to blow up the world. I wasn't big on FDR and all the stuff he did. I think Lincoln was the worst president of all. Tom DiLorenzo wrote a book called The Real Lincoln, which exposed Lincoln. I never trusted this whole Lincoln thing myself. As a street kid a little bit, I said, if you talk too much about one thing, that's probably what you're doing. You're talking about freed to slave. He ain't freed nobody. I went to law school well enough to be able to read a contract. The Emancipation Proclamation freed not a single African descendant in the United States of America. It was written by an Illinois Central lawyer who can write obfuscation to the point where people think that, this is a great thing he did. It only applied to the states that had separated. If you read it yourself, this may be a revelation to some of you. I think Lincoln, 640,000 people died because of Abraham Lincoln. He jailed over 13,000 people with no trial and went to jail. And then you find others are a little bit behind. My favorite president, if we're going to deal with that before I get away from Trump and the rest, none of you could ever guess my favorite president. You're close. Calvin Coolidge. Who said it? But you heard it before. No, Calvin Coolidge, my favorite. The coolest thing about Cal, they asked him a question, he said, nope. Calvin, how do you feel today? Good. Are you going to be reiterating on what you said from yesterday? Nope. Calvin was there doing the job that the framers had in mind for a president to do. It's almost like they need a Hippocratic oath for these guys. Do no harm. Cal understood that intuitively. Al? Yes. Legal background. Ken Cisco, gentleman over here. Ken has seen my legal work and said, I'm not hiring him anymore. No, I've helped Ken in trials. I decided long ago that I would rather teach than litigate. Pleadings are not as much fun as giving exams, that kind of thing. So I had the choice as an adjunct from the time I got out of law school in 70. I was adjunct instructor professor all the way up until December 2017, though in and out of law offices for years in between there. Syracuse. Syracuse University College of Law and Syracuse University shut down on the 5th of May, 1970. You may have, if you're old enough, you may have remembered that Syracuse was one of those shut down. Or if you're not old enough and you saw the movie with Tom Cruise called Born on the 4th of July, in that movie was a depiction of the anti-war riot that happened at Syracuse University from our having shut down the campus. I was the president of the student body at the law school when we said, nope, school's out. In the movie with Tom Cruise there, they showed cops beating everybody up on the quad. That didn't happen. That was downtown. But they had a depiction of a guy with a big afro with a bullhorn. And that was me. And I think that had something to do with my taking several bar exams over the years. 13 to be exact. I don't think that I flunked 13 bar exams, but we took 13. And somebody told me years later, it's obvious what's going on, Dick. It's not an anonymous exam. Well, of course it wasn't. When I flunked the first time, we knew that there was something going on because they had a pool that says, what are the 3 guys that are sure to pass the bar the first time? And I was one of those 3, and it took me many, many years. But fortunately, in New York, if you work for a law firm, you can do everything except take money and give advice. So I was able to survive that. So at adjunct faculty over the years, Libertarian Party, Mark got me thinking today. That's why he's a good trial lawyer. I come all this way, share all my information, and then say to myself, maybe I should reevaluate libertarian. But I reevaluated, with deference to Mark, I reevaluated the whole bit about the non-initiation of force a long time ago with the same results. It wasn't making any rules, wasn't dealing with any rules. I said, yeah, I figured that a long time ago. But the principles are the two. Do all you agree to do and do not encroach on other people or other people's property. I was with the American Arbitration Association's group called National Center for Dispute Settlement back in the early 70s in the Rochester, New York office. And our organization, you wouldn't know this because as mediators, it's a secret. Our organization mediated Wounded Knee after all the craziness and the killings and the accusing Leonard Peltier of that which he did not do. The federal guy died of friendly fire, but they never admitted that. Our organization went in and mediated Wounded Knee. We also mediated when the Mohawks came across the St. Lawrence River down into upstate New York in the Adirondacks and blew away about 7 or 8 people. And they said it was their land, and they had the treaty. They physically had the treaty, the paper. So it made it awfully difficult for the state of New York or any criminal justice system to challenge the fact that these people were enforcing what was on their land, having warned for generations that we're going to take our land. And we mediated that one for almost 2 years, and it came out that there is a living museum in the Adirondack Mountains that was a direct result of that mediation that we were involved with. National Center for Dispute Settlement became a part of the American Arbitration Association officially, and they sold off their neighborhood justice centers to the Labor Department. But we used to run a program called Arbitration as an Alternative to the Criminal Process. And we had neighborhood justice centers in Rochester in the general area where if a barking dog case, which is obviously if a guy punches his neighbor in the mouth, that's a minor assault, but it's still a crime. But to try it as we would try it through the regular court system is not going to resolve the problem between 2 neighbors. So as it worked out, the National Center for Dispute Settlement was given a contract from the city municipal court to send all of those kinds of cases that people agree to over to our program at the National Center. And the Justice Department now runs those neighborhood justice centers. I think that's let me give you the yings and the yangs, I figure, before we go to quick Q&As, because I do have a list here. You've heard of W.E.D. Du Bois? I didn't like him. He was a Marxist. He's one of the people that signed the Niagara Group, to start the NAACP in 1909. I said, there's got to be somebody that's the opposite of him. Sure enough, Booker T. Washington. I dug Booker. Booker said, you ain't got to get a degree to be able to be successful. Learn how to be a bricklayer. You can make a lot of money. Learn construction. Learn whatever all that stuff was about that's not college. And he was absolutely right. A lot of people don't like Booker. They say he was Uncle Tom. Say Uncle Tom. Now, Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee University in Alabama still exists today as a direct result of Booker T. Washington. I don't know too many W.E.B. Du Bois colleges around who ended up in Ghana as a avowed communist. Freud and Jung, Edison and Tesla, King and Malcolm, Paul Samuelson and Milton Friedman. All the secondary ones are Yangs. John Maynard Keynes, Ludwig von Mises, Lincoln, Calvin Coolidge, William Randolph Hearst, H.L. Mencken. See the Yangs? I'm a Yang guy. Republicans and Democrats, Libertarian Party. I'm a Yang guy. Questions? Yes, sir. Because it's not agreeing with the propaganda that you've been brainwashed from childhood to think that's the only thing there is. Yin, yin, and yang. Opposites. When they're brainwashing you, they never inform you of the opposite. They only say, Martin Luther King, he was good because he's saying we shall overcome. You know the problem with we shall overcome? Y'all never thought of this one. It's a group concept, we, so you're not taking responsibility, I. Shall is a future tense and not now. Overcome is abstract and not definitive. Now I got one that we should have had, but they ain't going over there. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. See, there's the difference. That's the yin and the yang, my man, when it comes to black people stuff. Yes, sir, Dave. Wow. 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 I and regarding Joe too, not, being non-political and not voting and all the rest, if the Democrats are smart and they nominate him, and libertarians are dumb and they nominate Weld, I will have Biden stickers all over my car, in my front yard. I will send money to the Biden campaign. I will do all I can to support him. I won't vote because I don't think it makes any difference. I'll still espouse that and say that to people. And the only reason is because Joe Biden is consistently authentic. If he walked in the door today, he wouldn't be aloof. And if I wanted to shake his hand now, I could do it. The Secret Service guys would have to back off. But high school with the new wife, that's neat. Wow. Yes, sir. Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. I would send money for that to happen. Yes. That was a direct result of having been on the road with David Berglund. When I first came into this movement, starting in February 1984, I was asked to be the MC for the Libertarian State Convention in California, up at the Universal Sheraton. And all the heavy hitters were there. I hadn't met anybody at that point. I hadn't even met Marshall yet. When it was over, Fritz came up to me and closed me. He said, do you believe in the initiative, force, fraud, or coercion to achieve personal or political ends? I said, no. He said, sign this. So he signed me up as in the Libertarian Party on the 16th of February, 1984. Within a couple weeks, the Berglund for President committee called me and asked if I would go on the road with David. My first gig was in Tucson for the Arizona State Convention. So being 6 months on the road with David through 30 states and a whole bunch of venues and listening to how he answered reporters' questions and getting all in my head and knowing when I closed for him after he spoke, I was getting reaction from people I never dreamed of. I said, I got it. I can do that. So I said, I'm going to run for president on the Libertarian ticket one day. So from 84 up until I started my campaign in 90 in Milwaukee, saying to people, I'm going to be a candidate for the Libertarian Party presidential candidacy, that's why I did it, because I saw it happening. I said, I can educate people as to another alternative to what people don't know exists, because I only know R&D. So when I got to Chicago and I didn't get the nomination, my wife, Ann, told me, she said, Dick, they're not going to nominate a black guy. I said, that's crazy. Andre Maru, he's my only competition. I could walk circles around him. I don't know if you were there at the convention or saw it. When they asked the question, Mr. Boddie, what's the difference between you and Mr. Maru? I stood there and I did this. And then they started clapping. There's no difference except I'm black. Now, had they nominated me instead of Andre, when the debates for the R's and D's were held in St. Louis, the cops came in, or the Secret Service came in and kicked Andre out of the hotel. Let's just pretend that had been me. Obama would never be president. I don't think Obama would ever have been president had that incident sparked what I think would have put us on the map, because I don't need teleprompters when I'm doing my formal thing. So that was really all about educating people that there's a third party that really has to do with your freedom. And so we had to roll over our money from the presidential campaign because you couldn't spend it, and I want to set up a fake trust. And I ran for U.S. Senate against Feinstein. And got 250,000 votes because it was a presidential year. But 2 years later, I ran against Feinstein and Huffington. Now, we didn't get as many votes because it was an off-presidential year, but for $695, I took a millionaire out. My vote total was the difference in that election. And then in 2000, I ran against Loretta Sanchez, for Congress. But all of that was about having been on the road with Berglund and said, plus the motivators just started in 83 too. So I'm getting gigs, man. I'm getting from American Rifle Association, I'm getting speaking gigs from places I never got the exposure to. But I never changed my belief system that what libertarian ideals are and ideas politically is the way that can save this country. A couple guys at Reason have written a couple good articles on that. And I don't want to be a killjoy to think that it's not going to happen. I think with the election in Riverside County, it's wow. It's like when Rand Paul got elected. I never dreamed that I'd see a front of a Time magazine with a person with a story where in the story in Time magazine, they used the word libertarian correctly. When I ran, if you remember, when I ran for the presidential nomination in 91 for 92, my objective was to make libertarian a household word. That's all. That's all I was about, period. If I could make libertarian a household word, then I would have done it. Well, Rand Paul's on the front of Time. I said, you did it. You did it. It's cool. I was back in talking with Wes Benedict, and he left now, and a person, Jess, whatever his name is, for the past, they got me back in, and they got my money now, so I'm sending them money. But I'm saying to them, I ought to be the keynote speaker in 2020 for their national convention. That's all I want. Because with the structured, when I do it keynote-ish, a lot of people say, damn, you hear that, boy? Oh, Lord have mercy, I guess we libertarians. So that's my objective, if I can get the National Party to say, okay, Boddie will be our keynote speaker for 2020. Other than that, I think they're doing a professional job, but they're still trying to out-Republican quite often. And libertarian is a secondary concept to them. And vote getting is more important than what the principle is. And the concept of a principle that we have as libertarians and a political party is it's antithetical, whatever the word is, that it doesn't make sense. If you're a libertarian, it's going to be hard to really support a political party. If you're a libertarian party person, it's going to be hard to be libertarian, because you're going to try to make this thing look like the other guys. So when the Libertarian Party becomes successful in 2024, because the Republicans did the Whig, 19th century Whig thing, they will not be libertarians. They'll be the small government party. And the other one will be the big government progressive party. But you're going to get a lot of people. It'll be called the Libertarian Party. The Democratic Party is not democratic. The Republican Party doesn't understand the republic. I don't even understand the word. So I can see that the Libertarian Party will be the viable other party after 2020, and damn close in 2020. Because Trump has been, I did a speech when he got elected. Is Trump a verb? Is he a noun? Is he just stupid or crazy? And I think Trump has helped the Libertarian Party, not the movement so much, but the party more than anybody else could ever done. It's still a paradox. And I'll still send them money. Yes, sir. You look familiar. No, I try to avoid anything Michael Moore does. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when I first saw him, I felt, when he was still in Flint, when he was still challenging CEOs of major corporations, etc., I was with him. But then I started realizing that, plus the hypocrisy of having your bodyguard arrested with gun. I mean, so I haven't seen it, but Fahrenheit whatever, and it's not Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit number, so maybe I should check it out. I'm not opposed to dealing with progressives and conservatives and all that stuff. I just have a difficult time with stupidity. I'm smart enough to keep my mouth shut when a person is stupid, differing from 40 or 50 years ago. I say, you're full of shit. Well, that didn't really sell anybody. So now I'll just keep my mouth shut, and they think that I agree with them, and we proceed. And I get a lot of people. I've gotten a lot of people to become libertarians. A lot of famous people. Jim, vice presidential candidate with, just now. The one the legalized drugs. Say it again? James Gray. I converted him over. Walter Williams, I converted him over. There's a few others that we take for granted. I brought them in because I realized Ed Griffin, who used to be Robert Welch of the Birch Society's main man. If you go to Freedom Force International, you read the creed, that's me. I gave it to Ed, he put it in. It's basically Dick Boddie shows up in Freedom Force International. And Griffin, if you asked him what his political affiliation is, he'd say, I'm a libertarian. Who'd ever dream in our lifetime that Ed Griffin would say anything like that? So there are a lot of those that happen, and that goes back to Ernie's statement. I know that I have the ability to persuade people rationally to test us out, and then it's hard to go back. It's almost like that X-rated thing they say about blacks. Yes, ma'am. Because you can't change it based upon our Constitution. The people who would be harmed most are not going to agree to have a different amendment. They'll never agree to an amendment. And the people in the states, those 47 other states or 45 other states, are not going to vote to have the Electoral College done away with. The reason it was in there is because France was cutting off people's necks at the time we were trying to put a government together. And they said people's passion is a dumb passion. Let's make it so we have a circuit breaker like on our electrical system. But to change that, it would require many states that benefit from the Electoral College to throw their benefit away. That's not going to happen. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's too bad. Popular vote, that's 5 states. So they never come to North Dakota. They never campaign in Nevada. They never campaign in Alabama. They never campaign in North Dakota. They never campaign campaign in California, Texas, New York, Florida, and Pennsylvania, and Michigan maybe. Well, that's unfair to the people of all those states who think voting is important. Yes, sir, the gentleman in the back who looks familiar to me, by the way. What's your name before you? All right, go ahead. I think voting is a joke. Let me explain to you. When you vote, you're giving a person, you're saying, I want this person to represent me. It's a law of agency. It works very well one-on-one. You want to sell your house, you say, this is one I'm not paying over, I want a house with 4 bedrooms, and I'm not paying over 600 grand, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what happens if, when you hire the agent, you now get 2 different agents off the same agreement? Well, let's make it 750,000 per congressional district. Your vote doesn't mean squat unless it's the dog catcher in your neighborhood or your church group if you're lucky. Your vote will never make the difference in a tie vote in your lifetime. All it is, I believe, is a placebo to keep a revolution away, to make people think they have input into their demise. The prince, Machiavelli, he said, if you can make your subjects believe that they have input into their political lives, you can do anything you want to them. Here we are. The vote is a joke. If Arnold could become governor of California, come on, man, that's pretty good evidence. It's a joke. If Trump can become president of this country, and it's not just because of the Electoral College, it's because of television, because he said, you're fired. It's because of handheld devices with your thumb. It's because young people don't understand civics at all. They have no idea what the hell's going on. But they do know Bruno Mars. Yes, sir. Democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep voting on what to have for breakfast. Right, right. And I think that if you vote to say all people with blue eyes should be killed, it's terrible. Democracy is not a good form of government. Democracy, the framers didn't like democracy. It's mob rule. Yes, sir. It was. It died. Because the people with the handheld devices with their head down have no idea what you're talking about. Have no idea. Let me tell you something. I stopped teaching. I see Mike Bach and I think about that. I stopped teaching as of December 2017 because I found when the students used the laptops, it was cool because they could check out what I'd say. They'd say, oh, wow, he did so-and-so. Oh, this guy's cool. Oh, man, he did run for Senate. Oh, yeah, he ain't lying. Oh, this libertarian thing is pretty cool, right? When they did away the laptops and they have the handheld device, their head is down. I'm in this room, man. I got stuff to share with them that they would never have in any university or college in this country. Because most are lefties and a couple are conservatives. Very few libertarians who are free to talk about both of their asses. But their head's down. Now, here's the key. They look up a word today. Come back to class 2 days later. They look up the same word again. Now, you tell me we're not in trouble? Serious trouble. And if we did it the next day, they'd have to look it up again. It's why they don't remember phone numbers. It's why they can't compute. It's why we have the yin and the yang with the Republicans and Democrats to the left and the right and all that crap. Left and right went out with Bastiat. That's been perpetuated by the press. What's left? They can't define it. What's right? They can't define it. It's just that I like my guys better than your guys. And I don't care what they do, because now the Virginia thing with all the craziness, lefties aren't going to kick them out. That's crazy to think that they would, to think there's any moral basis for the shit that they do. I don't play it. I will watch sports or listen to Miles Davis and John Coltrane or whatever. I just don't play that game. They can't catch me up in it. And if they get close, then I come out with libertarian ideas, and it just blows people. Yes, Ernie.
We got time for probably 3 faithful questions.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I wanted to make sure that you addressed is Mark made a very persuasive case for, we got to come up with the right answer. You talk about being moral and voting necessarily not it. How would you, with your experience, implement what Mark is talking about?
To rules of law, to educate people on the distinction between moral law and the subset of Anglo-American law. He defined it quite readily. Most people don't understand that separation or distinction. So if you sell that, all of a sudden the light goes on and says, oh, I got it. So you have to go to laws that are created by this voting process, through this corrupt system and all the rest, but at least there's a statute that we can all agree on for this person who just got jacked up. We at least have the rules for this week. The pocket parts haven't changed this for this week. To emphasize rules. I don't have any problem with that at all. And to let them know that moral law and Anglo-American legal structure are 2 different things. I have faith there that people could learn it if they weren't locked into their handheld devices, and Watson is going to tell them anything they need in the real pragmatic sense of law. Watson, what do I do in this case? Well, okay, next. I haven't thrown in the towel yet. Yes, sir. Yes. Humor, and the message is don't hurt other people. That's it. If I make it real concise, humor and don't hurt other people, and it works. It works. Some of the best libertarian messages that I've ever gotten and given are through stand-up comedy, and I've done it through humor. Yes, sir. Information in your handheld device. Go to the Cato Institute. Go to the Mises Institute. Go to there are literally thousands of places where one can go to understand this, and handheld device will take them there quickly. And it comes from an individual approach, not from the group approach, because group is a fake concept. Yes, that's what. No, the power comes from, you ready? Big word, persuasion. Power comes from persuasion. And it's effective power because power of persuasion lasts, and nobody's attempting to escape from it. Say it again? No, they just changed the violent players. Is that a Polish accent? Where are you from? Say it again. I thought it was Poland. Okay. I knew it was in Germany because ich spreche Deutsch. Varos? Ja, sei bisschen Deutsch. Ja, boy. Ich schreibe dir das an der Wandtafel. Okay, I knew it. We got it. No, it doesn't take power as much. It takes power, but it doesn't take violent power. What it takes is persuasive power. And most things that have ever been... Okay, I'll go to it right now. I've been discriminated against all my life because I'm black. Until recently. I shaved off my beard after 20 years. I look like Ed Bradley. You don't know who he is, but I used to like Ed Bradley, and I do like this and say, no, I'm not him. But now I look like Gandhi. And people think I'm from India. And they don't know. They don't know I'm from Elmira, New York, y'all. But Gandhi did persuasion and got the British out of there in 200 years. So I can lay down like that and not fight back and wait for them. King was right on that part. Yes, ma'am. No, it doesn't. So you come here and it'll work.
Dick Boddie. We'll see you in the morning. That's our program. Anybody want to grab more plates? Yeah, okay, Mark. You know, this is for the people. These are Jacek. Can you introduce them real quick? You know, go ahead. Just tell you about Project Arizona.
Hello, good evening. Thank you, Ernie, for letting me speak very briefly. My name is Jacek Spendo. I am with Project Arizona. We are leading group of 6 students who come here to Phoenix from 6 different countries. Actually, we have students from very far countries like Nepal, like Venezuela, Ukraine, Poland, Russia, and Mexico. And they come here to Phoenix to learn about liberty. They take internships so they can understand better the working ethics here, how things work in Arizona. Actually, one of our students interns for this wonderful company, Attorneys for Freedom. Thanks, Mark. Mark is amazing, man, and we are so grateful for being part of this conference and being part of the Liberty family here in Phoenix. I see a lot of familiar faces. So our students come here to learn about how freedom is advanced in the United States, in the great state of Arizona, and the goal is to empower them and give them new tools, new networks, new mechanisms, so they can advance these wonderful principles back home more efficient way. We will be here in Phoenix until late April, so we welcome you to interact with us. We are always happy to meet you, to organize a meeting, and we are so happy to be here at the Arizona Freedom Summit. You'll see us here also tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thanks. You know, we've got to, over the years, Jacek was one of these young students at Glenn Kripe Language of Liberty. The reason they call it Language of Liberty is because you go to Europe, you know, you want to teach freedom, a lot of it is in English. You know, John Locke, you know, the founders, that kind of stuff. And then I was all excited to Freedom's Phoenix. We have it translated in like 39 languages. We have a translator on it. And I go, look, it's in Polish. And they go, God, that's caveman Google talk. We speak English, Ernie. You know, I go, oh, okay, that's right. I didn't think of that. You know, so their second language is English oftentimes. So when they come here and they learn from us, for them to have Dick Boddie talking about, you're still voting? I mean, you know, I know you guys are like, oh, come here, man, what the hell am I doing here then, you know? You have to understand, a lot of it's what Mark was talking about. He's going to talk here in a second. It is just a general opinion. It's your opinion. How you manifest that is a whole nother thing. But if you don't know what's right and wrong, if you don't know why things work and don't work, if you don't know, you don't know. I mean, you're not going to do it, no matter what mechanism you use. So that's what the Freedom Summit has been about. Remember when Mark and I first started in 2001, it was 3 weeks after 9/11. We almost canceled it. They were shutting down airports and all kinds of stuff. Then Mark did the lawyer thing and went in and, he negotiated. So we got good deals for a few years on that one. What happened was we understood what was going to happen. We knew they had bad legislation, the Patriot Act on the wall. They've had that on a shelf. And they blew the dust off, and here it came. So we knew that there was going to be a phase of this Americanism, exceptionalism. We're going to whip ass until we learned that that may not be the way to do it. It's by example. A lot of the stuff that Mark's talking about. So I don't want you to be so worried. These young guys have been doing. It's so good to see you. I'll give you a hug yet. You're so worried about how you're going to go back, and you're going to take hold of some mechanism. You're going to have some shiny badge. You're going to have, some kind of, an interview. It's going to go viral, and you're going to go, and we're going to go, woohoo! We're going to kick ass. It's not like that. It's this. It's individual. It's learning it and sharing it and inspiring other people just to have the opinion, this sucks, and this doesn't. All that other stuff happens on its own. It's not that I run for office a lot. I don't vote. I don't care, but it's to be able to have that voice. And however now with social media and so on, to have that voice and to break through that, I'm sure Mark's going to have a lot of things to talk, even more. You spend time with him, and you'll find out that I've seen, his walk as he's gone through this, and he's serious about it. He wants to have an impact. Is it voting? I don't know. Ask him.
Hey, just real quickly here, I wanted to sort of correct the record or amend the record here. The police brutality case that I was talking about tonight, just as I was speaking about it, the city of Glendale decided that they would jump the gun and try to get out ahead of the big story coming out on Monday. So they put on a press release, totally erroneous, but that prompted ABC 15 to blow their story out tonight, went out on the 6 o'clock news. So now every station has picked it up, and you may have noticed I've been in and out doing interviews. I was just on Channel 12. So if you guys are interested in seeing the story I'm talking about, part 1 is going to be replayed tonight on ABC 15. I think it's going to be, all the other channels are doing stories too, but I think ABC 15 probably will have the best story. They're going to be on at 10 o'clock, and I'm told it was the lead story, and it was 12 minutes long. It's an ugly as hell video. So anyways, just want to let you guys, you can watch it now. Maybe I'll show it tomorrow. I don't know. Anyways, see you guys tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you.